mean, I don't know what the outcome of it is, but but we met them years ago, man, when I was in Miami. We met them Indians. We had a church out there, Justin. We taught them different parts of the Bible. We taught them English, and my wife she taught them a typing class. She took a typing class. A lot of them went through the typing class, and we taught them how to be waitresses in the Indian restaurant. And I think maybe that I was the first manager of that restaurant. I think I opened that restaurant up, if I'm not mistaken. The Indian restaurant, of course, it was run by Buffalo Tiger and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, I imagine. I'm not positive, but we had made a lot of contacts with those people. And me being a minister, I used to pray for them. I'd go around the different villages and pray for those Indians. And so John Poole told me, he says, Reverend says, when you go pray for those people, they think it's the end of, they think that you're giving them their last rites and that they're dying. He said, you need to explain to them what you're doing, you know. So John Poole and I was great friends, you know, and Bobby Tiger, and I was friends with all of those Indians out there. We grew pretty good in their confidence. And I'll never forget when I first went out there, they did not like me at all. Irene Tiger, that was Bobby Tiger's wife. That was Buffalo Tiger's brother's wife. She used to give me a hard time. But then all of a sudden, she found out that I was honest and tried to do everything I could to help them. So she turned and she became one of my best friends. That was Irene Tiger, and Bobby Tiger's wife. And we become great friends, and we stayed that way for years. So I have no idea whatever. I don't know if any of Bobby's family's living today or not. But, you know, I just turned 93 years old, and that's been a long time ago, and so my memory is not too good. Something happens to you when you get old, you know. Some of your memory goes, but I still remember a lot of things. And we were great friends, and my wife helped Buffalo Tiger quite a bit. And she managed to took care of all of the books for the restaurant, and took care of all of the books for the Indian village, took care of all of the books for everything that went on. And she was also his secretary and bookkeeper. And she found a lot of mistakes that the bank had made. When, in fact, she found one mistake that the bank had made. It cost $45,000, something like that. And the bank had to pay him back or something. I don't know full details about that, but I think she found a big mistake that the bank had made. So we did that for many years, and we loved them, and we took care of them best we could do. I remember that I used to pray for a lot of them. I remember one time I was working. I also worked too, and I was working, and the family got sick, and they drove all the way from Tamiami Trail all the way to my house and sat there in the car all day long till I come home from work, so I could pray for them. And I remember that I used to pray for those people, and God would instantly heal them. Now, that happened many times. And so they really trusted me. And every time one would get sick or something would happen to them, they'd always come and I'd pray for them. But it was kind of interesting, the things that went on out there. But I don't know what's happening now, but I don't think that they would do anything to hurt the Everglades, because it's a pretty famous place. I mean, now years ago, we had a lot of visitors used to visit us out there. We had the European Common Market to come out there one time. Now, I fixed lunch for them. And we fed the Kennedys. The Kennedys had stopped by, and we'd fed them in a restaurant. And it was really interesting. But I used to drive all the way out there every morning. I'd leave home at maybe 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and drive all the way out there and get everything in order and set up breakfast for the travelers that would be passing by through there. I did that for a long time. So what's happening now, I have no idea what's going on now because we've been gone a long time. A lot of things have happened. He built the casino, and he'll probably keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And the traffic is probably going to pick up out there. Of course, that casino is going to bring a lot of traffic. And so maybe that bridge is necessary. I don't know why they built the bridge. But maybe it was necessary. They know what they're doing, I guess. They wouldn't have just done it without knowing what's happening. And I don't feel that they would do anything to hurt the Everglades. And I know they can't take your property away from the Indians because that's their property. They owned that for years. They owned that before we ever got here. So other than that, I have no idea what's happening. But I hope the best for them. I went in the Army January the 21st, 1940. That was a long time before they bombed Pearl Harbor. It was a year before they bombed, I guess it was a year before they bombed Pearl Harbor. I went in the Army. I volunteered. And I'll never forget taking my physical. Something happened that I didn't pass the physical. Couldn't have been very major because the man looked at me and he said, "Oh, you really wanted to get in the Army, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, go on. You're in it." So I left there and I Fort Knox, Kentucky, got my uniform, got everything fixed up in Fort Knox, and they sent me to Camp Shelby, Mississippi. Which I was in Camp Shelby, I guess, I don't know, a year. Over a year before they bombed Pearl Harbor. And when they bombed Pearl Harbor, they shipped us out. We were scheduled to sail on the Normandy somewhere. We were probably going over in Germany, probably, I don't know. It was artillery. 134th Field Artillery in the 37th Division. And we were scheduled to sail on the Normandy when somebody sabotaged the Normandy or whatever happened to it. So they rerouted us from New York to the Pacific. We left New York, and we were the first troops to land, or I guess to be over in the Pacific area. So we sailed from New York. It took us 31 days. We were on that ship from New York all the way to a little island called Tonga Taboo, which is real close to the Solomon Islands, Guadalcanal and Solomon Islands, real close. So we set up a big ammunition dump. We stored a bunch of ammunition. We did a lot of preparing, I guess, for the invasion of Solomon Islands and Guadalcanal. So we were there. I guess we were on that Tonga for over a year. We were on Tonga before they invaded. Before they invaded the Solomon Islands and Guadalcanal. So we were there for the whole thing. I was in the Pacific area. I stayed in the Pacific for over 3 years, maybe closer to 4 years in the Pacific. We were there for so long that we had all kind of jungle diseases and everything that you can get. And I'd had malaria, I don't know how many times, 20 some times probably. But I was the first case of malaria on Tonga, mosquitoes. So we were there for the Solomon Islands, Guadalcanal, and we were there for the Coral Sea battle that they had in the Coral Sea, which was the turning thing of the whole war, really. And we left Tonga. We went to Australia. We were in Australia, and then we left from there and moved on into New Guinea. We stayed in Australia and got re-equipped and got things organized and whatever. We went up to Port Moresby, that's up on the Great Barrier Reef. We left Sydney, Australia. We went up to Port Moresby, got on a ship. What did we get on that ship at? We got on that ship in Australia. No, we didn't either. We'll get on that ship in Port Moresby, which is just before you enter into the New Guinea area, which is Rabaul, and it's real full. I mean, we're right next to Tokyo, buddy. Real close. So we were there, I don't know how long, before they relieved us. We were getting ready, we were practicing, when we was getting ready to make a landing in Leyte and some other islands in Guadalcanal, in New Guinea, when they took us off of the islands and put us on a ship, a hospital ship, and brought us back to Australia. Now this is after almost 3.5 years, 4 years. And then they brought us back to San Francisco, and we got on a hospital train in San Francisco, and we stayed on that train from San Francisco to Swannanoa, North Carolina. What a trip, buddy. Woo. But it was all good. I loved the Army. I loved the Army, and I loved everything. So I was in the hospital in Swannanoa, in a Navy hospital, I guess it was, a huge hospital. Had over 7 miles of hallways in that hospital. A big hospital, man. Stayed there for a long time until we doctored us all up and done a lot of things. And I got operated on while I was there, and had my hernia operated on, and I left there, and they'd sent me to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And I was going to teach school in Fort Sill, I guess, in a cadre. And they were going to keep me there until I was discharged. I had enough points stored up from all of the times in the Pacific. I had enough points to get discharged anyway, but I didn't want to get discharged. So I went from Fort Sill, I went to Germany. Landed in Le Havre, France. Went up the Seine River, past the White Cliffs of Dover. Normandy. Went all the way up to the place called Le Havre, France. Got off the ship in Le Havre, France, and went up to Belgium, Luxembourg. Stayed up there for a long time, then left there, and they finally found a place to put me. I was a sergeant. Nobody wanted me because of the rank I held. And they because they didn't want me moving in their outfit with the rank. They should be having themselves. But I was sorry for them. I wasn't going to give them my rating either. They asked me if I would give it to them. I said, no, I ain't giving it to you. I'm keeping it. I earned this, man. You're going to find out when you get to the Pacific. Not like over here in Germany and fighting in war and from town to town and village to village. I said, when you get over to the Pacific, you're going to be in the jungles, buddy. There ain't nothing in them jungles but natives and wild dogs and Japanese. That's the way it's going to be. It's total different. So they wouldn't want to go too bad, you know. It's a total different thing, but I was there for all of that total action, all of it, all through the Guadalcanal and Solomon Islands. Took the dead off of the Yorktown, buried the dead in Tonga there in temporary graves until they could haul them back to the United States after the Coral Sea. The Yorktown sunk right after it left Tonga. It sunk, and then finally, I think they raised it. I think it's in New York now as a tourist attraction. But there was one sad thing. I'll never forget, we took all of the dead off of that Yorktown. They threw all of the bread out of the deep freezers, threw everything out of the deep freezers and filled it full of dead bodies. And we took them off in Tonga, off of the Yorktown. Then when the Yorktown went back out the next time, it sunk. And as far as I can remember now, I don't know, But, I don't know. When they invaded Solomon Islands, and they made a lot of mistakes. From what our officers told us when they came back and briefed us on whatever happened, the Marines and the Army fought each other all night long. We shot down our own planes, killed our own men, because of the mistakes that they made, and it shouldn't have never happened. But sometimes it just goes to show you, I guess, how things are run and how things happen. There's a whole lot to that story, believe me. And the officers came back and told us, briefed us on everything that happened. Now, when this happened, they fought each other all night long. They would have lost that. They would have lost that if they hadn't rushed back to Tonga real quick. Took every man off that island and rushed them over to Guadalcanal to refurbish the thing after whatever happened. So a lot of things happened. Believe me. I'm telling you, I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to be alive. Believe me. So a lot of things happened. We were getting bombed pretty heavy in Woodlark Islands. A lot of things happened, and things probably you can't hardly forget, but you can't, it's a nerve-wracking situation. I mean, there's so much to that story, so much to it. I had 15 GMC trucks, 15. I had two command cars, 4 gun tractors and trailers that I took care of. I took care of all that stuff. I took care of that from the day I arrived in the Army from 1940, when we had old French 75s from the First War, World War I. Then we got new guns. We got new 75 millimeter, 105s. 105s. I think, I'm not positive, but I don't know. Anyhow, we got new guns and got rid of our old French 75s. Oh, Lord, I'll never forget them things. And we got re-equipped. And we did a lot of engineering. We did a lot of practicing in Camp Shelby, Mississippi. Now, we did a lot of first operational things that we did during the Mississippi, during the maneuvers we had in Mississippi, big maneuvers. And we accomplished a lot of stuff there, I guess. But somebody makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, that thing in Guadalcanal was unnecessary. Nobody ever told them what was happening or what was going on. But it's not easy to even talk about that stuff, I'll tell you. Some people won't even talk about it at all. Of course, I don't know how many is living now. I mean, I'm 93 years old, and I was 21 years old when I went in the Army. So I don't know how many people it's really living from World War II or how old some of those people are. I never did ever know the final outcome of my outfit, 134th Field Artillery, but I ended up in 157th Field Artillery. We had 155 howitzers. That's a big gun, buddy. 155 howitzers. huge gun. We pulled it with M7 tractors, full tractor, full Caterpillar tractors. It's what we pulled it with. And M7's what they would name them were. And I'll never forget that. Of course, they didn't want me, but they got me. And I left there. I took over a motor pool in Paris, France. Now I've been promoted. I was promoted over there. I was promoted to a staff sergeant, which is 3 stripes and a bar and a circle underneath it, with a T in the middle. Technician. And I don't think I ever got credit for any of that. None of it, ever. And on my discharges, none of this stuff is on that discharge. It's a 1-page discard with nothing on it. And so how you research something like that, I don't know. But anyway, there's a lot of things happened. I'm lucky to be here. By the grace of God, I guess I'm here. But He protected me, watched over me, kept me. I took care of all these men. I had 15. I had 15 drivers. 15, I drove the 6 trucks. Then I had 4 diesel tractor pillars. So now I got increase now. I got 4 diesel tractors to take care of, which was a mess, man. I don't know why the Army ever consisted of something like that. They had starting motors on them. You just couldn't start the motor. You had to start one engine to start the other engine. Had a starting motor. And very tedious on top of it. You made one mistake, the stupid thing ain't gonna run. So we had a lot of ups and downs of that. When we left Port Moresby, we sailed into the Bay of, I forget right there in New Guinea. I forget the name of that. But we went into a typhoon for 7 days. We went through a typhoon. 200 and some mile per hour winds. Broke them Liberty ships, them Kaiser Liberty ships that they built. It broke them in half. Just split them in half. You can imagine that the waves that we went through. We were on an LST, which is about 100 and some foot long. I don't know how long that thing was. Flat bottom LST, and you can imagine what we went through. We thought that was the end of the road. We thought this is our cemetery right here. We're gone, and this is it. Came through that all right. We landed in Woodlark Islands. The CB, the Marines were supposed to get there first. Everything is messed up. The CBs arrived first. That's a construction outfit. And they built there. They were working on the airport when we arrived. Oh, I'll never forget that one. So we landed there after making all kind of mistakes in the landing. The LST runs in, lands, got to drop the stern anchor. Now we can't get back off. So we finally revved up his engine, shook it, that thing vibrated, we thought it was going to fall apart, and backed it back out. And then we dropped the stern anchor, and then we would come in again. Now this time we're not coming in as far as we did the first time. now here I'm facing getting off this ship on this island. With all this time, I got a tractor, a gun, and a trailer I'm pulling. And what a time I had getting them off that ship. Oh my God. I had one jackknifed in the middle of the ramp. I mean, now we don't even know if the Japanese are here or not. We have no idea what's going on. There's all kind of things happen, man. I'll forget that. I told my drivers, I said, now I know you're nervous. I don't blame you. I know you're nervous. But now when you shut down this ramp, I said, now you give this tractor full throttle and you don't fool with that tractor. You don't try to put on no brakes, please. Go right on. The first guy went on down the tractor. He got afraid, put the brakes on, turned sideways in the middle of the ramp. Now everybody's in back of us trying to get off in here. We just got sitting sideways in the stinking ramp. We can't get off. I got a hook onto him, pulled him back up the ramp, straightened him out again, and let him see if he could go on. And I said, now the rest of you guys, if you put your foot on them brakes, I'm shooting you. Don't try to stop. You go full force right off this thing. Of course, I was young then. I was full of everything, I guess. And I took pretty good care of him. But one of our worst things that could ever happen to us is when mail call came. I hated to see mail call. I was pretty funny. When I was in the Army, I didn't write nobody. My mom and dad never heard from me, very seldom. I just let them know I was still alive. I didn't write to nobody. I didn't receive no mail. I didn't receive no mail. And when mail call would come and these people would get their letters and they'd start reading their mail, you could see tears coming out of their eyes. Wives telling them they found somebody else. You've been gone too long. Now I got to try to pacify these guys. They want to commit suicide and everything. So it really wasn't easy, believe me. But that went on until we were relieved. We came back to the United States. But that was a pretty tough time we had in the Pacific, believe me. We saw a lot of things happen. I used to always tell those guys that you don't have no best friends now. Your friendship is ceased right now. You can't have no best friends in here. Because your best friend will get killed right in front of you. And then you ain't no good for nothing. It wipes you out totally. I'll never forget my nephew was climbing up the ladder to get in a gun turret in the ship that he was on. He climbed up the ladder and the guy in the front of him, as soon as the guy stuck his head up above it, a shell took his head right off. Right, and he fell right back in my nephew's arms, headless, no head. Head went with the shell. And I said, now those are the things that happens to you. You don't have no best friends. I don't have no best friends. All you're my friends. But that's as close as we're ever going to get. I just want you to do what you're supposed to do, and we'll make it through this thing if you do it. I took pretty good care of him. And I'd have to pacify and watch over him all the time, but quite an experience, quite an experience. But I loved the Army, I loved it, and I would have stayed in it if I hadn't the war ended, and I didn't want to have no peacetime Army stuff going on, so I come home where I was a total nervous wreck. You could bust a balloon in the back of me and tear my nerves up completely. Or anything. I couldn't go, you'd think I could go see some movies that they make. And then another thing too is these movies they make is a joke. You don't think I'm on the front lines expecting to get killed in a minute and cussing up a storm and raving up a storm and carrying on like that? No, they didn't do it. Man, they would learn how to pray. A lot of them learned how to pray up on the front lines. And instead of cussing and carrying on like you see in these movies, forget that. Not where I came from, it didn't happen that way. And I come through quite a bit of it, believe me. But those are just some of the minor things that we went through. I mean, I can tell you all the hardships. And many times when we landed in Tonga, when we landed in Winlock Islands, it rained for 22 days without stopping. Straight down rain. We booked an airport in the rain. We had no place to go. Man. There ain't no houses on these islands. I mean, they've been there before. And pretty drastic, I'm telling you. You wonder where your next meal is coming from. But we came through it. Thank God for that. I'm still holding on. I'm not getting any younger. But I'm wondering how many is still holding on, is still left here, besides a few of them. I don't know how many. But when I went in the Army, I was only 21 years old. Just old enough to get in. Of course, I had a lot of friends now. I had a friend of mine, a colonel, was a real close friend of mine. He started out as a second lieutenant, ended up as a colonel. He wanted to keep me in Washington. But they went on, and finally I got discharged out of the Army. Yeah, Lord. Quite a deal. In fact, I don't even remember coming back from Germany. We came back on a ship. Well, I don't even know where that ship even landed at. Come to think about it. That was my second trip to the United States. The first one was from Australia, from the Winlock Islands to San Francisco, but now I don't know where I came to when I come out of Germany. Probably landed in New York, probably. I don't know. I forgot. I guess I can forget if I want to. What does that do?
Now, at the end, I can put these video files together and they'll hear that clap sound and it looks real big, and I can sync up these two cameras perfectly so that this camera will move the same audio as that other camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have the same information at the same time. So where do you want to go to eat?
I don't care, Justin. Whatever. Anywhere. Ooh.